Okay. Oh my gosh. After copious amounts of testing this morning, it still was glitchy. So if you're still here and you're still watching, thank you. I'm so excited to get started. And I'm really, really sorry that that was such an issue. So if you, Madeline, I know you're there. If you can just tell people to try to refresh their screen, that would be awesome. And so, because I know that I see there's a couple people in here. Yay. Okay. We have some viewers. Yay. Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry that that happened. I tested it about an hour ago and it worked, but I think maybe what had happened was the link, kind of when I closed my computer, the link might have just broke. I don't really know. So thank you for sticking with me. I'm really super excited to teach today. And I know we have a lot to talk about. I can move quickly through some of the slides. But I am really excited to talk a little bit about event planning, live event planning. And I've had this idea for this webinar brewing in my brain for like the last, I don't know, 3 months. And so today, obviously, with much tech glitching, there has been, oh, hang on. Okay, refreshing, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna put my headphones in actually so you can hear me. Okay, better. Woo, sound, refreshing, we're all good. Okay, so I want to tell you a little bit about why I'm so passionate about live events, and then we are going to jump right in and get started because we have a ton of stuff to talk about. I was not going to talk a ton about marketing, but all of the I got like 15 questions like between the last 3 days, and all of the questions primarily had to do with marketing and agenda. So we're going to cover those, and then we kind of like might move a little bit more quickly through other things. So I am really, really passionate about live events. Oh, let me quickly. Yay, Diane, I'm on. Woo, best day ever. So what I'm going to do is I am super passionate about live events because they essentially built my business. Even when I made, I think like the first year in my business, or maybe the second, I made like $13,000. Like that was my take-home salary. I don't know how I'd made that, but it was insane. So if you've ever wanted to host a live event and are struggling to host them, and you want to make them a regular part of your business, my goal today is to help you understand how to do that and how to plan to make events a more consistent, easy, streamlinable piece of your business, because events only work if you can streamline them. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to get started. If you have questions, oh, Andrea's on. Hi, Andrea. Good to see you. If you have questions, I'm going to kind of walk you through our question and submission process. I also have about 15 that came in via email, so we'll start with those. And then I'll get to kind of our live questions, unless yours is like, there's a lot of people who are wanting to go through that one. So I know you're worried that we won't end on time. Don't worry, I built in time for glitches because I'm an event planner and that's what happens. So we will definitely end on time. The Q&A might go over. So if you do have to end on time, you may miss the Q&A, but that's totally fine. It'll be a replay. You'll have a replay for 48 hours. So you can come back and watch the Q&A when you have time. I'm going to get started. I'm going to share my screen and then we're going to get started. Cool. Okay. So the title of this webinar, and I'm actually going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to present. Whoop, whoop. Where is it? Where's the play button? All right, I'll just do it like this. Okay. Oh, there we go. The big, huge present button. Okay, let me know if you can see that or if it looks. If you can see that, give me like a thumbs up in the chat. Or like a, yeah, it's working kind of scenario. I just want to make sure that it's not like my face as I go through this. Yes, okay, hooray. That is wonderful. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to build your community, how to build your clients, and how to build your contacts and your client base through live events. Like I said, I really believe in this stuff. It grew my business to 6 figures in 18 months, and it continues to grow them. And now I get to do all kinds of really fun stuff like try like small dinner parties and like new event formats and all kinds of stuff. So that's pretty fun. So in case you don't know who I am Lauren. My last name is Caselli. I am a strategic event planner and marketer. So I started doing events almost 10 years ago, well, more than 10 years ago in 2007. I moved to New York City and started doing events. I'm originally from New York. I went to college in DC. And then for the last 6 years, I've lived in rural Montana. Go Bozeman. If you have ever been to Yellowstone National Park, you have probably flown through Bozeman, which is where I live. My town is about 50,000 people. The closest major city to us is Salt Lake City. It's a 7-hour drive. If you're moving fast, it's an 8-hour drive for me because I'm a slow granny driver. And then the next closest is Seattle. It's about 10 hours away. So we are rural. There's not a lot of clients here. There's not a lot of people here. It's a big like ski outdoor town. And it is beautiful and wonderful, but definitely not the most ideal place to start a strategic event planning firm. And then I also believe that dinner parties can change the world. I believe that the more that you get people in the room with you, the better. And you can literally change the world by hosting events, having people into your living room. And if you feel that way, then this webinar is going to like blow your socks off. Okay, so if you haven't already, turn off your phone on silent, close out of your 75 browsers, get a notebook and pen ready because we are going to move really, really, really fast because I know that we are going to end on time and I don't want to take up any more time than I already have. So get out of your browsers. The reason I ask you to do that also is like if you're having connectivity issues, like I just want to make sure that you don't have any sort of things that are impeding you from getting the best value. And at the end of this, I'm going to show you how you can, if you are thinking about sponsorship or if you are not quite understanding how to fund your events, and if you're like, I'm wasting money on them, I'm wasting time. A lot of people ask me about sponsorships, and while we won't cover sponsorships specifically in this lesson, I have a whole fun masterclass, and I'm going to show you how you can get that for free at the end of the lesson. So just FYI. So Andrea, I know you introduced yourself. Madeline, I know you sort of introduced yourself, but if you're in the chat, I want to know where you are from because I want to know if you guys are rural. I want to know if you're like, if you live in a big city and events are hard for a different reason for you. And then I also want to know what kind of event you want to host or what ones have you wanted to host in the past. So if you could just get in there, let me know, again, where you're from, what kind of event you've wanted to host, all that fun stuff. That way I can do a little bit of research, make sure I'm speaking to you. If you've always wanted to host an international event versus a local event, this one is a little bit more focused on not necessarily local, but building community. And oftentimes that is local. But if you are trying to do international or like worldwide events, let me know that too. So I'm going to do like 1 minute maybe of that. I know we have some people from Pennsylvania. I can't see the chat right now, so I might just let you guys introduce yourself. Let me know where you're from. Let me know about your events. And then I'll kind of go through that during Q&A. I also want to know like if the majority of people want to know all about creating events in a rural community where there's no services and like terrible internet, or if it's something else. Okay. So let's get started into the meat. I just want to know if this sounds like you. You are an expert at what you do. So you know that you're really, really good at what you do. And you want to focus primarily on serving your existing clients and community and potentially new clients instead of constantly looking for new clients and opportunities for your business. So if that sounds like you, give me a thumbs up, a yes, or something in the chat. I also want to know if you feel like you've tried everything to get people in the room with you, whether that's your own events or maybe trying to set up one-on-one collaborative meetings, get pitch meetings with potential clients. If you have tried everything to get people in the room with you, but you're falling short of your goals, let me know if that sounds like you. And I'll talk a little bit about my goals as well when I started my events. And also, if you wish you could just host live events that people loved attending, which led to more future clients, instead of struggling so hard to get people in the room. So I don't know if that sounds like you. That was definitely me for a long time. When I would host smaller events before I kind of like figured out my secret sauce, I just was like, why is everything so much work? So if any of those sound like you as a client, if you're a client-based business, if you have products and you want to do like product launches and things like that, and any of those sound like you, then you are in the right place, and we are going to address all of those things. So what you're going to learn today. You're going to learn why live events work well for community, contact, and clientele building. I think a lot of times people have one idea of how events work, but that's not actually the reality of how they are the most effective. They can work in the way that most people think, but I'm going to talk a little bit about why they are the best for building that community, and then eventually for referrals for your business, and then also for just kind of building a contact list of people who you can reach out to for either future events, future collaborations, or future business projects. You're also going to learn what your unique community needs in a live event. I have a whole kind of like framework that I'm going to go through about, if my community is this is what they're going to need. So we're going to walk through that. You're also going to learn a step-by-step walkthrough of how to create your events agenda. So this is like the most actionable piece that you're going to take home, is understanding like, this is what I do first, this is what I do second, this is what I do third. So just keep that in mind. Get your notebooks handy and ready for when those slides come up, because you're going to want to know that. And then you're also going to learn the first 2 crucial steps to marketing any live event. And these are really simple and really basic. And I'm actually going to just tell you all about how I thought that they were simple and basic and everybody knew them, like these steps. And basically what ended up happening is they are the 2 things that have sold every single event that I've done out, and also just really helped me kind of hone the marketing strategy about events. And then, although we're going to touch on this a little bit less, we're also going to learn about post-event strategy. So how to maintain and grow your contact list, and what you need to be doing post-event. Most people, especially ones who aren't event planners, like do their event, they're super excited, and at the end of it, they're like, I'm so exhausted, I can't even think about it. And then it's like business as usual. And they don't ever think about like the people that they just served that loved it. They kind of like are moving on to the next thing. So we're going to talk about some strategies to maintain and grow your contact list after an event. So by the end of this class, you're going to have a simple process for creating the best live in-person event for your business. So simple is the word here. And it's basically like messaging. So it's the 5 steps that we're going to go through that we just talked about. So that process, you will have kind of like a little simple process for how to do that. You're also going to get the actual agenda for your first or next strategic live event. And that's really just, I'm going to show you some sample agendas. I'm going to tell you what you need to have, and literally, we could probably troubleshoot it on the phone, but like I literally could set up and you should be able to do this at the end of this. Your event agenda should be solid by the time you leave this class, because it's pretty simple. And then you're also going to have 2 powerful strategies in your back pocket to get people in the room. So no begging required, I promise. And so before we dig in, I just want to tell you a little bit more about why I know this stuff works and why I am so passionate about it. Because if I didn't think that this was real, I wouldn't be doing this masterclass. So awesome. So in 2014, my business was a bit of a mess. When I say a bit of a mess, I was a hybrid copywriter / event planner / marketer. And I wanted to get away from the grind of doing weddings every weekend. So at the time, if you're a wedding planner, you know it's a grind, especially on the weekends. And I was like super over it. I was 50% freelancing for other event planners. I was booking my own business, but it was a mix of like web writing, flyer creation, events. I was all over the place. I was up working late every night. And in fact, when this picture was taken, I had gotten really hard feedback from the client, like literally right as I got into this hot spring. And like within 10 minutes, I had to get out, go connect to Wi-Fi in this like town of under 500 people in very rural Montana, and like work on a project on a Sunday. It was awful. I was taking literally every project that I could get so that I could live. And I live in Montana, which has very low taxes and like a very low cost of living. So I was like struggle bus on the paying myself, even though I was working round the clock. And I was totally burned out. I was burned out in this picture, but you can't tell. It seemed that my ideal clients were inaccessible. Again, I live in a rural town. And the ones that I was finding that I was working with virtually or even locally were like completely worried just about bottom line. They weren't worried about like the process. They weren't worried about making it easier for them. All they were worried about was like, what's this going to cost me? And that was really, really hard because my I'm an excellent strategic event planner. And so it was really hard for me to be able to do my best work when we were constantly focused on budget. But in early 2015, this all started to change. And it started to change because of live events. This is actually a photo taken from my first live event. And I was very, very nervous. I have this like bell in my hand trying to like wrangle people, but it was an amazing event. And when it did start to change, I booked my client roster within 12 months of my first event. It was completely booked for the whole following year. And then within 18 months of that first event, I had my first 6-figure year. So it was pretty insane. And it was wonderful, and I had a ton of fun. And this was my second live event, so I was clearly in a much better mood then. And so now I have an amazing community of business owners behind me, a 6-figure business and a team. I just hired an employee, and I have a contractor that works part-time. And I have a great team, and I love it. And I get to show up and do fun things like this every day, like talk to amazing people, build community, help my clients, host dinners, go to conferences. Like it was so much more fun than I was having before. Okay, so where do we start? Okay, so number one, you need to figure out your message. I want you to get your pens out, and I want to write that down. Message, exclamation point, circle, circle, circle. So you know, the main goal of your live events is to build relationships with potential clients, contacts, and referral sources so that they trust your experience. That is the number one goal. You can also, if you are like killing it with live events, you can also pitch and sell. And you can pitch and sell, like, you know, even if you're hosting live events. But if you are going into your live event and you don't know what your message is, you need to remember that the number one goal at the end of the event is people get value and they trust you enough to hire you. If you have another agenda item in mind, please prop it in the chat because I want to talk a little bit about it. But really the main goal of live events is relationship building. No matter what anybody else tells you, it's all about relationship building. Okay, so your message. What is your message? Your message is the one thing that you uniquely believe that no one else that you know believes. So for me, my message when I hosted my first event and when I host my event now is that community can change the world. When you are in the room with people and they're not hidden behind their computer screen, you can get things done. You can like create collaborations that are amazing, and you can get to know someone much, much, much faster. It doesn't take so long. It doesn't take such like disjointed progress. I firmly believe that the minute you get in a room with someone and you've learned about who they are, what they do, especially in our world today, if you can understand someone else, sit down and have a cup of coffee or margarita or something with them, that it will change the world slowly, person by person. So that's what I believe. That's why I'd hosted my first Boss Lady Bash. And that's when I sit down with any client, I say, this is why we're doing this. And we're not doing it for any other reason other than trying to change your client's mind, change the world about whatever the product is that you serve and offer. So your message is not copied from another business. It's not something you feel lukewarm about. And it is not something that wouldn't make it into a passionate monologue of the Breakfast Club. So any 80s movie, if you would not be willing to stand on the table for your message at your event and like in detention, if you've never seen the Breakfast Club, this isn't going to make sense. But if you are not willing to like be in an 80s movie and stand on a counter or a desk and say like, this is what I believe in, and this is why I'm doing this, and this is what I'm teaching, or this is why I'm bringing these people together, then you can't move any further. So people come to live events for two reasons. They come for the content and they come for the community. Most people will sign up for your event because of number one. They will say like, what are we doing? What's the, whatever, which is why agenda building, like really getting your agenda solid and understanding your agenda is super important. But they stick around because of number two. So you can get someone to come to an event if you're like, free money, free iPads. Like, yeah, I want that content. I want free iPad content. I'm happy to listen to your pitch if you're going to give me a free iPad. But the reason that people stay in your community, the reason that people stick around is because of the other people that you bring in and the bonds that you are creating. That is super rare. And so if you can structure your event based on the stuff that I'm teaching you right now, if you can structure your event around creating great content to get people there, and then at the event and post-event create the community that people feel like they are a part of and that they want to continue to be around, that is kind of where the magic happens. So a couple of things about live events. Live events provide immediate feedback to you. So like if you show up to a live event and you're like standing there, like literally I'm in my webinar space right now and I'm like, are people bored? Like I have no idea. But at a live event, like you talk to someone and they're like, I'm feeling really nervous. You can be like, oh my gosh, let's make a connection. I feel nervous too. So you get immediate feedback. You get to know kind of what your clients are struggling with. You get to know like what they've already done. Live events are so much better in terms of market research, in terms of understanding your client base, in terms of testing things than anything else, because the feedback is like immediate. You don't have to wait. You can kind of just see like, this is what's going on. Live events also provide a chance to give one-on-one support to attendees. So if you're like early in your coaching practice or you're early in your consulting practice, live events are a really great place for you to start practicing some of those skills or deepening some of those skills. And also your attendees get way more value if you are, like, obviously I want to help you as much as I can on this webinar and in all of my master classes. But like when I'm in a room with you, if we were all sitting, I wish we were all sitting in a room together. Like if you were with me, I would be able to be like, tell me about your specific challenge. And I'd be able to kind of teach everyone else through your example how we can, kind of make your business better. So live events really provide that for your attendees, and they also provide it for you. And live events, again, encourage attendee loyalty to your community. So I know there are lots of people who have like membership sites and all that stuff. And while that content is wonderful, a lot of times, especially when I have clients who email me or try to consult with me or want to consult with me, they all say like, how do I roll out a really robust in-person event program? Because a lot of people really want that face-to-face, person-to-person, hand-to-hand contact. And it's really, especially as business owners, it's really hard to get, and it's really hard to cultivate a really good community unless you're passionate about it. So live events really provide that attendee loyalty to your overall community, whether it's digital or in person. I always recommend if you're doing a membership site or some sort of community that you have a live event element. And I have lots of clients that do that too. And we can talk about it in the Q&A if you have questions about that. So when people meet you and connect with you in person, they are more likely to think of you when a referral opportunity arises. So people always say to me, well, why don't I just go to networking events then when people meet me in person, that, it'll help boost my business. And I always respond to that. And I say, because when you are the host of an event, if you are the one like making the effort, putting it on, getting to be in the spotlight, being the gatherer, that puts people, when you are a leader, when you are out front leading, you have a way better chance of actually making a difference than if somebody just meets you at an event, because they can't trust, they don't know if they should trust you. Like they'll meet you at a networking event, you'll do kind of the 5-minute thing and then like you move on. But unless they have like a really great reason to trust you, to see you in action, to see your work in action, they have no idea whether or not you're good at what you do. And then lastly, I want you to know the reason why live events work so well is they have a conversion rate of almost 3 times of digital marketing efforts. But you have to make sure that you're focused on what your audience needs. So again, with the iPad like example, if you like host an event and say every person who signs up for this event and pays $100 gets a free iPad, like you're gonna have really great conversions. But like that's not a great audience message. That's not a great reason to like get people in the room, because they're gonna like go sit, get the free iPad, and then peace out at the end because all they want is the iPad. You have to make sure you're focusing on what your audience needs. So step 2, how to decide what your community needs. You have to ask them. So I want you to know that there are 4 main types of live events that you can offer. There's a networking event. There's a workshop/teaching-based event. So anything that has some sort of like workshop element that's like similar to this webinar, but kind of like a little bit more just teaching-based. If you have questions about that, I'm not sure if I'm explaining it well, but a workshop or a teaching-based event is pretty much just like anything where you are primarily teaching people instead of like encouraging them to connect with each other. There are conferences, which are generally more inspirational, and then there's retreats. So when you are deciding what your community needs, or when you think you have an idea what your community needs, or you've gone out and set up 3 or 4 coffee meetings with people, if you have realized in all of your research that the people that you're meeting with or the people that you run into or you personally feel this way, that your community needs community, then host a networking event. If you feel like your community or the people who you're talking to or the people that you want to be in community with need tools and information and feel like they're confused or they don't know what to do or the process is hard or yada, yada, all those things, you need to do a workshop. And if your community needs to feel inspired and connected to a larger, broader mission, you need to do a conference, or I recommend a conference. And if your community needs to do the intense internal work in a supportive space, then that's a retreat. So if with my event, my first event, and the one that I still run is called the Boss Lady Bash, the complaint that I heard in my town, again, small town, not a ton of people, usually word of mouth town, not a ton of people are like, trying to like find Google information on the internet. The complaint that I heard was that people with normal jobs, which most people are in my town, they have, nonprofit jobs or, corporate jobs or whatever. They didn't understand the struggle of being a freelancer. That's what I heard over and over and over and over again. So I knew at the time that my community needed to feel understood and they needed to connect with people who felt the same way. So that's how I decided what my community needed. So based on, I'm going to go back to that. So based on kind of like what I was doing. So the process of that is like, start getting out, talk to your ideal client, talk to other vendors in your industry, talk to like similar, either not competitors, but like similar people in your industry. Find out what they need, find out like how you can help them, find out how you can create something that helps solve the need that they have, and then make a decision based on kind of those 4 different case study things. Okay, so step 3, let's create our show flow. If you're having any questions, by the way, if I know that I'm like running fast through some of this stuff, and that's kind of just how I teach in general. I actually had a complaint one time when I was teaching live in a live event. Someone was like, "You talk so fast." So if you do have any questions, I'm happy to like dive into the Q&A later. Just pop them into the chat. So how to create your show flow. This is what we do next. So number 1, you got to figure out that message. What are you passionate about? What are you willing to stand on the table on? Number 2, you got to find out what your community wants. Like, I think a lot of people, and I don't want to call anybody out, but like a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I am such a good teacher at X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to host a workshop about this thing, but they've never even talked to the people that they think about, so it's really important that you understand your community, you set up those one-on-one meetings. And I'll tell you actually a little bit about how I figured out what my community wanted, is that I hosted small events in my house first. And that might be a strategy that you use. I hosted kind of like 10 people for 2 months. It wasn't 2 months. It was like, I invited them into my house like 2 weeks in January 2015. I said, hey, come over. We're going to talk about business. I feel like I'm struggling. Maybe you don't feel like you're struggling, but maybe you can come and cheer me up. And then I hosted them again in February. And then at the end of that, I was like, hey, we should do this on a larger scale. I launched my first event to a list of 10 people and we sold it out. So that's kind of how I figured out what my community needed, because so many people at these like small, like little cocktail parties that I was hosting at my house, spending $30 on groceries and wine, and had people bringing wine, were like, we need to do this on a larger scale. So okay, now we're at step 3, creating your show flow. So once you understand your message, once you understand what your community wants, I want you to create your agenda. So this is my top tip for agendas. Simplify, simplify, simplify. You want it to be as easy as possible. And there is no shame in taking this exact formula that I'm about to give you and like creating your event agenda. This is like, when I start my agendas with my clients, this is 90% of how I do it, literally right here. So get ready. So number 1, you're welcome. Plan to start 15 to 20 minutes after your designated invitation time. The reason I do this, and I know all of you kind of like type A, start on time people are going to be like, what the heck? With live events, you want to make sure that people are walking into the room and they feel ready to go. And so usually what happens is, depending on venues, depending on when people are showing up, depending on parking, whatever, there's a subset of people who are going to show up 20 to 30 minutes early. There's a subset of people who show up 5 minutes early to like on time. And then there are people who are going to show up 3 to 10 minutes afterward. And so if you have, and usually it's like somewhat equal. So if you have those people who are like rushing, trying to find parking, whatever, slamming their doors, whatever, you want to make sure that when they show up, they feel like they're in an oasis of calm. They can get settled. They can, network with someone. They literally have come from their like really tough life outside, and they've come into your event, and you are welcoming them with open arms to say like, you belong here. So that's why I always have the 15 to 20 minutes after a designated event time, still ending the time that the event's going to end, but kind of starting a little bit later so that people can like get in the space, be in the space, feel ready, get a drink of water, get their snack, whatever, and get ready to go. I usually spend 10 minutes laying the ground rules and setting expectations for the event, and also introducing myself. So let's say the event, well, I'll go through it in a second because you'll get to see it, how this all lays out. But spend 10 minutes laying the ground rules and setting expectations for the event. Ground rules for me include like, a lot of this is like, none of this goes outside of this room. I want to make sure that we're all connecting in a way that is mutually beneficial. So please don't try to solve someone else's problems. If you're having questions or you're feeling confused, reach out, blah, 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 blah. So ground rules are basically like, sorry, let me go back to that. Ground rules are basically like you making sure that everyone can be adults, especially a lot of times with live events. Generally, there's one person who talks and talks and talks. Generally, there's one person who's an introvert. And so if you're kind of like not laying ground rules and not setting expectations for people about A, what you expect, how you expect them to behave, and B, how the event will run, you kind of get like a bit of a like amalgam of interpretations, and it can lead to event disaster. So make sure you have a set of ground rules about how you want people to behave at your event. I want you to then spend 10 to 20 minutes in an exercise that helps form a connection right away. So I know people are really tempted to dive into like, let's do the dang thing, but I want you to really, again, people come to events for the content, they stay in your community, they stay fans because of the connections that they make. Less about the content, more about the connections. So content, this is kind of a blanket statement. And again, we can tweak and go through. And if you're in my event course, then I kind of like will tweak your agenda for you. But the general rule of thumb that for every 60 to 90 minutes of teaching content per 3 hours of total event time. And that sounds crazy to people. They're like, what do you mean? If my event is 3 hours long, I'm only going to be teaching for 60 to 90 minutes? Yep, that's it. And the reason for that is because you need to make sure that you need to remember that people only can stand to listen for an hour to an hour and a half at a time. Remember, I don't know if you were at one of the schools that had like 4-hour period blocks of school time. Like, did you really focus for 4 hours? No, you had breaks, you had interactive exercises, you had points of connection. You literally cannot teach content for more than 60 to 90 minutes without losing people. Plan to spend 10 to 20 minutes making a case for the next thing your audience should be aware of. This is technically called your pitch, but like, if you do group coaching, like this is a lot of times there's one person in the audience that's going to be like, so how can you help me? Or what do I need to do next? And then you can be like, I can totally help you. And this is how you can work with me. So just make sure you build that in. Even if it's a really soft pitch, it does not have to be like, let me stand on stage. I mean, I will teach you how to do a hard pitch if you want, but like, you don't have to like get up there and like get all salesy and like do all the like, snake oily things, which is like totally fine. If you are a big, like you like to sell, that's fine. But just make sure that you tell people. There are so many people, I can't even, like the two things that people forget with events is that they don't introduce themselves. They get up on stage and they start teaching. And then people are like, who are you? And what's your story? And why are you qualified? So people always forget to introduce themselves. And then they always forget to say like, if you want the next step on this, email me, set up a phone call with me, join my coaching program, do all this stuff. So make sure that you build in time for that. What I didn't mention, I'm going to go back to the content thing. If you have a long event, if it's like a day-long event, you need to be building in breaks every 60 to 90 minutes. Sorry, not 60 to 90 minutes, 90 minutes to 2 hours. So that's another thing that you have to keep in mind. For 3-hour or shorter events, I don't do breaks as much. Sometimes I will. But if you're doing a longer day-long event, try to plan breaks, either lunch, bathroom, whatever. Try to plan them every hour and a half to 2 hours. Okay, you're doing a networking event. This is my like tried and true networking event. And this can look different for everybody. So, I don't want you to take this as like a super hard and fast, but arrival and networking, screenshot this. If you were like, I don't have the time, like screenshot it so that you can like take it home with you. Arrival network, introduction and icebreaker for 30 minutes, especially for networking events, you want people to get a drink there. It's post work, whatever. So just make sure that they have some time to network. I want you to introduce them, or I want you to either introduce yourself and then have people do an icebreaker, because I want people to know immediately that you are the host of this dang thing. Don't just like let people network and like forget to introduce who you are. Like people will show up and be like, I don't know who's hosting this. So you need to build that time in. And then also do an icebreaker. Ask people to connect with people in some way. There's all kinds of exercises, and I have a bunch of different networking exercises that I like to use in my Events That Convert course, which my students have loved. So, but yeah, make sure you're doing an icebreaker. Then I spend an hour mingling. About 15 minutes before kind of the second hour, I do like a top 3 tips. And that usually is like to capture people who have come in late, didn't get your kind of like introduction pitch. It's usually basically whatever I'm an event planner. So if I do a networking thing for kind of like other industry, either event planners or kind of people in the events industry, I'll kind of do like, here's what I want to tell you about, whatever the topic is, for if I was to do something for like a event planning or the boss lady community is what my community here in Montana is called. I will do a top 3 tips about like, here are the ways that you can make the best connections in this room. Number 1, wear a name tag so that people know who you are with your business name on it. Number 2, I want you to go up to someone who has the same color shirt as you and say, hey, we have the same color shirt. Whatever. So, give them that exercise. And then number 3, this is total off the fly. Number 3 is at the end of the event, make sure you hand out 5 business cards, something like, so give people, and if you're not doing an industry contact thing, think about how that could be relevant to your event. And then also do like a really brief pitch. Who am I? This is what I do. I'm an event planner. If you have questions about hosting an event, or if you know a client that's trying to host an event, let me know. I'd love to talk to you about why I think events change the world. Boom, done. 15 minutes, easy. And then for the rest of the event, just leave it open to networking. I also would encourage you to have some sort of call to action. Take a card, take a blah, 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 whatever, something, so that when people are leaving, they have something to take with them. But that's kind of how this agenda works. Same thing for a 3-hour workshop. Again, screenshot this. Make sure that it goes, it's nicey nice and screenshot it so you can take it with you. Again, same thing, arrival and networking. As you notice in a workshop, I only do 15 minutes because, obviously you have things to teach. Again, introductions and icebreaker. If you were seeing the format, like pretty much the same. Content item 1. So for this one, I would no more than 2 content items. I would have you teach for an hour. And you would probably only be teaching honestly for 40 minutes. And then you would want to kind of like have either like group discussion or Q&A at the end of that. Then I would have a break, a quick one, because they've obviously been listening to you since about 5:15. So that's about 75 minutes. Have a quick break. You don't have to have a break in a 3-hour event, but whatever. And the break could be like a Q&A break. So like, feel free to get up and go to the bathroom, but I'm going to answer some questions. And then again, second content item, do some Q&A, do like some group exercises so that people can distill some of the information. And then 7:40, the last 20 minutes, wrap up, pitch, do any like other Q&A, call to action, kind of end of the event. So that's your 3-hour event. So really, if you look at it, you're really only teaching for 2 hours. Maybe you're even doing Q&A, so you're really only teaching for an hour and a half, maybe. So just note that. So here's my sample Boss Lady Bash event. This is since the first event that I've hosted. This is the format. People show up for 15 minutes. Again, I do my introductions and my ground rules like we talked about. So I do facilitated dialogue networking. So I put everyone into small groups in advance. And I have a facilitator at each group. And those are just like friends of mine who come to the event for free and they facilitate. So we talk about one topic, and usually it's like, what do you love about your business and why do you love it? And then the second one is what's hard. And what do you want to kind of like complain about? And we try to keep it out of the complaining realm. We try to like have people like really get deep into the meat of what's frustrating them. And then at 7:30 to 7:45, I kind of wrap everybody up. Usually, I'm not gonna lie, we always go over. So it's usually closer to 8 o'clock that this happens. But I wrap everybody up. I say, here's when our next event is, because usually that's my pitch. And then I do a Q&A. Does anyone have questions? I do a strategic event planning. If you know anyone that needs an event planner for their corporate company, let me know. Otherwise, or if you want to do a similar event to this, let me know. I can, kind of walk you through the steps. And then I let them network for probably another half hour, 45 minutes after that. Okay, so let's talk about marketing. And I'm very eyes on the time right now because I know that we are getting close to our hour. So I just want you to know that you are not alone. Marketing is the number one hurdle for event hosts. And usually the reason it's the number one hurdle is because people always start too big on event number one, and they always do their marketing alone. They never think like, they only think like, I have to like plan all this and tell everybody about this and whatever. So if you are trying to host, 100 people on your first event, or if you're trying to host even 50, I think my event was like 35 or 40, first one. So scale back. Usually you're going too big. So number one, go small to start. It is much easier to fill a small event and make it excellent than a large event. Even now, I have clients that are like, we're going to sell 350 tickets. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we better start marketing a year in advance. So like, you need to be going smaller than you think. It's much easier to fill a small event. And then also you get the added benefit of saying for your next event, this one sold out, so make sure you get in. There's no better marketing strategy than a previously sold out event. And then the second step that I always take is ask past or current attendees to market for you. Those are the number one people who are going to market the crap out of your event for you. And most people are too afraid to ask people who had a great experience to help them get other people also to the event to also have a great experience. So again, number one, go small to start. That's how you get butts in seats. That's how you fill the seats, is you have fewer people in the room. You have fewer seats. And then number two, ask past or current attendees to market for you. So in my Events That Convert course, I have like a whole communication plan and template, and like, this is how you do it. I have my sample emails from the Boss Lady community. When I hosted my first event that sold out in 48 hours, I had zero email list. And I had 10 people that I had been inviting to like these little parties at my house for 2 months. That is it. I sold that event out with 10 people. So if you can have 10 people that will go to bat for you, that love what you do, that know that you are worth what you are worth, you will sell your event out. You just have to ask, and you have to ask the people who know you, who trust you, who love you, to do the marketing on your behalf. So here are the tips for doing that, for asking those people. So make the process simple. Provide them sample text, provide them images, provide them a plan. Don't make them do the work. They'll help you, but they're not going to help you like that much. Number two, follow up consistently and ask them. Don't just like email once and say like, okay, hands off, wash my hands of it. Like, follow up, like say, hey, I was wondering if you had a chance to do this. You're not bothering them. You're not bugging them. You are helping them to help their communities or their friends or their clients have a great experience. And it's the thing that works the most. And I have like templates and scripts and all kinds of fun stuff that you can use for that. And then the last thing is keep them updated on progress. The best thing that the best event marketers do is that they are like, like after a week, like, we've sold 25 tickets, we have 10 left or whatever. Keep them updated. Don't just like go into your black hole and kind of like, don't, like stop communicating with them. Just keep them updated. And you can just do it in an email thread. That's what I did. And people like will chime in and they'll say, hey, I'm so excited for you. This is so fun. So just make sure you're keeping them updated. Again, be prepared to consistently ask people to come. Don't be afraid. You're not bothering them. You're not begging. You're really just reminding them. I mean, most of the time I started promoting my events with Facebook events, and I would send them out like 6 weeks in advance, and people were like just not paying attention. So like the best engagement I ever got was when I started marketing my events 1 month before. And then lastly, don't be afraid to experiment. Post on social media, try a Facebook ad campaign. Like, there's all kinds of things that you can do. And as you do more events, it will get easier, but don't be afraid to experiment. Okay, and step number 5, lastly, keep them coming back. So the magic of events happens when everyone goes home. After an event, you want to create a communication plan post-event that maintains contact digitally. You want to give them a space to connect. You want to give them a space to connect, to maintain that contact digitally. You want to make sure that they're hearing from you regularly. You cannot finish your event, take a nap for 2 days, and then go on as business as usual. Like, if you are saying, okay, I'm planning an event for the next 2 months, and your event is on the last day of that 2 months, you're not planning it correctly. I need you to think of my event. I'm planning my event for the next 2 months, and the planning process is 3 months, because I have to like do that engagement post-event. That is the most important part. If people stop hearing from you, if people don't get the follow-ups from you, if people think that you like fell off a cliff or went on vacation, like they're not going to want to stay in your community and stay loyal to your brand if they don't hear from you. So don't resist the urge to become invisible after your event. You have to kind of maintain your stamina so that you can kind of connect with them. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. It can just be an email that's like, I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about you. I hope you're meeting your goals. How can I help you? Done. Super easy. But when you're planning, create a communication plan of 2 to 3 emails post-event that you can send out, or phone calls or meetings. Another piece that I have is I always set up 3 to 5 one-on-one coffee meetings to get honest feedback and testimonials from attendees. Every event that I do, immediately after the week or two after, I like email 5 people who either engaged in some way or I met at the event, and I say, hey, do you mind having coffee with me or talking to me for 30 minutes to talk about your event experience? It's a lot of work. It is more work than most people do on their events, but literally if you make a slight bit of effort, you will get amazing feedback, amazing testimonials, and you will build that loyalty that we're trying to build through these events. Again, post-event, once you build this initial cohort of fans post-event, everything gets easier. Event planning, marketing, pitching, it all gets easier once you have this kind of community support around you. So don't be afraid of like really going balls to the wall all in for your first event, because it pays off post-event. Okay, let's recap. Events work because they are a personalized approach to a mass problem. They are, people need your information. They sign up because they want to hear from you. And it is a more personalized way to kind of help solve problems en masse for your community. Don't forget to listen and pay attention to what your community needs, whether that's setting up community meetings one-on-one in advance, or if it's, like calling people, just meeting with them for coffee, doing Google research, reading blogs, whatever it is. Listen and pay attention to what your community needs so that you can A, craft your message, and B, make sure to choose the right type of event that they need. Third, keep your agenda simple but structured to make room for connection. Everything we do is building around connection. Simple. We want to build around, we want you to teach, but we want you to make sure that you're building in times for connection, whether that's Q&A, whether that's an icebreaker, whether that's facilitated dialogue. Make sure you're building around connection. Get help with your marketing. Go small, get help with marketing. Do not do it alone. I don't market any of my events alone. We have promotional partnerships when I work with big clients. We have influencers and bloggers that we work with on a big scale. You can't do it alone. Don't try to do it alone. If you are working with a venue and you're getting it for free, ask them to help you. They want people in their space so they can help you. Ask your friends to share on social media. It's super important to get other people on board, especially for your first event. And then lastly, don't disappear. Stay visible and keep helping. So I want to pause there. That's kind of a good way for us to remember that we are here today because you want to stop the hamster wheel of scrambling for low-paying clients. Like, this is how you do it. And I don't want you to be like living in your house trying to like email people and try to like, have all these like ad hoc one-on-one meetings. I want you to get paid. I want you to have businesses that you love. I want you to travel. I'm going to Big Sur next week on vacation because I can, which I'm so excited. Like, I want that to be your business. I don't want you to be struggling. I want you to be, and you want to be the host that people love and look up to. And you want to get your people together more often with less effort. Like, I want you to have like 4 to 5 events a year. I don't want you to have 1 event a year and then like to take a nap for 3 months because it was so stressful. And I want you to have a simple step-by-step process for your events without having to do all of the guesswork of testing. Like, this is an actual, like, this is my, with my working thing, this is my actual like project plan that I that I use when I am working with my clients. And it is life-changing for them. Now I know that you can do it. Now is your time. So remember, everything that we talked about today are strategies that I use when I work with my clients and when I do my own live events. Nothing is theory. This is all stuff that I use to sell out my live events, to structure all of my events when I work with my clients. This is all just based on my experience, not only on behalf of my clients, but also with my consulting clients, and then also with my own events. Events are creating about an effective system that you can duplicate time and time again so that you can focus on serving your attendees. Without that, you're scrambling, you're trying to find, sending emails last minute, you're like, scrambling to market. It's all about creating the system. And once you do it once you go through it once you have all of the templates and you're ready to go, it is so much easier than like all subsequent times. And so what I wanted you to know is that at the end, I have my own process, my own system in my course called Events That Convert. So Events That Convert is a really amazing, I've talked about it a little bit in the webinar, but Events That Convert is a really amazing 7-week online course where you learn exactly how to create your workshops, your retreats, your networking events that change your business, that get you clients, and that help you make money too, if that's your goal. So Ashley was a student in my last cohort, and she sent me an email right after the class, and she said, your expertise has been a huge missing puzzle piece in my business strategy, which has been amazing to watch her kind of go from unsure, not confident about her event, to kind of like killing it, launching it, and hosting her people. So with Events That Convert, you get 7 course modules. It's huge. You get 20 plus email templates, planning documents, a private support community, and to answer your Facebook questions. And then you also get to create your unique project plan, as we saw this earlier. No more scrambling for those last minute items. You'll get your comprehensive marketing plan. So definitely taking those 2 strategies that I talked about earlier. And then you'll learn the best practices of being a compelling host so that you can book clients out of your event. There's 7 modules. The first module is strategic planning and venue research. The second one is agenda creation and daily structure. The third one is pricing and budgeting. Oh my gosh, the biggest one. People love this module so much. The fourth module is marketing and attendee recruiting. So if you are if this is again, basics of the sales page, we're going to talk about how to fill up your seats. And we'll also talk about all the systems and the templates that you need to market. That's the biggest thing with marketing. It's not like some sort of intuitive, it's literally a system and a process. And I have all of that information for you. So module 5 is you get all of your timelines, your to-do lists for planning, and then it's adjustable based on when your event takes place. You'll learn when you should be launching, planning, onboarding customers, and we do that in all reverse engineered timelines. And then we talk about the crucial things that are planning and what things are nice to have so that you can walk into hosting your event knowing that you chose the things that mattered over the extras. The last one, or the 6th module, is registration, communication, and attendee care, which is making sure your attendees feel welcome, making sure that they're super stoked about kind of the event, making sure that they're ready to come, their expectations have been set, and they are ready to buy. And then we will talk about your on-site experience. That's the last lesson. How do you make sure that people feel great? We'll go super deep into post-event documents and processes that solidify your attendees as high-level clients eventually, because that's the goal. You want people to come to your events, and then you want them to do something else at the end. You want them to hire you. You want them to refer you. You want them to come back to another event. And so Module 7 is all about creating a really great on-site experience so that you can build that community out. And then if you enroll by 2:15 Mountain Time, so I don't know where you are, but if you're Eastern Time, it's 4:15, you'll get my sponsorship sales strategies to sell more sponsorships for free. It's a really, really awesome, amazing bonus that I love. It's a 65-minute masterclass. You get some special templates and things like that. So in the next 15 minutes, you'll get it. So the price of the course, if you're interested, it's $6.99, which is a steal, honestly, because one 1-hour call with me is $300. So literally, basically, the course is my soup to nuts planning. I use this exact template step by step when I work with my clients who are anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000 clients, like my one-on-one clients. So this is a steal for getting all of my templates, all of my everything. And there's also a payment plan. So there's a button below. Join now. I would love to have you in the course. I would love to have you have the bonus. So I know we're running a little bit over because I want to make sure that if you are interested, if you are trying to host events, if you are struggle central, and you don't know what to do, I want to give you all the templates. I want to give you the timelines. I want to give you the checklist. I want to make sure that you are focusing on your attendees and not just on planning and like scrambling. I want to make sure that your events are dialed in, locked in, awesome amazingness. And I don't want you to focus on the fact that they are, I don't want you to focus on planning. I want you to focus on your attendees and taking care of them. Okay, so it's Q&A time. I'm going to pull, so if you have to jump off, you can totally watch the Q&A after, but I'm going to jump in and maybe 15 minutes of questions. I have 7 that I already have, but if there are any in the chat, I would love for you to stay on. That would be amazing. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can see your faces. Stop presenting. There you are. Oh my gosh, we ran through that so fast. Cool. What questions do you have? Actually, let me pull out my chat. That'll help. Woo! Okay. Margarita Network. Somebody posted Margarita Network, which I love. I would love a Margarita Networking event. Okay, cool. Awesome. Workshop teaching event. Oh yeah, thank you for answering that. Process or more tools. There's also a replay. So if you missed anything, like you can just go through and fast forward and see all the slides. Product launches. Okay, host events that people love to attend and lead to future clients. Yeah, totally. Okay, Diane, I have your questions actually in my little, let me pull it up. There we go. Questions, June webinar questions. Okay. Does anyone have questions about anything right now? If not, I'm going to dive into my pre-prepared Q&A form. But if you have any questions that you want to talk about, let me know. Okay, number 1. My target market is interested in my services for such a limited period of time. Usually, so it's bachelorette services. Oh, Madeline, this is your question. And then they switch to being referral sources. To what extent should I provide space for my target market members to get together and share ideas? So this, I think, is more, so Madeline, your question is really about like, I focus on people getting married and that's kind of a limited audience. How can I like create this community? So I was thinking more about this the other night, and I really think that it's about creating a great vendor network for you. I think it's definitely important for you to reach out to, maybe speak at other people, do a joint event. But what the limited amount that I know about the bridal community is that they churn so fast. Like they get married every 12 months and you are basically finding a new community every 12 months. And that is just a lot more legwork on your part. And so what I would do is if you're really like going all in on the community building piece to get referrals, I would really focus on your vendor and your supplier network. So how can you get to those? How can you get to the people who have better access to the couples? How can you get to venues? How can you get to photographers? Usually those are the first 2 vendors that people book. So how can you get to those people, build a community for them, make them feel like they're learning industry knowledge, like they have a community of peers, especially in the wedding industry. It's all referral based. So I think you may need to focus a little bit more on that segment of your market for the community piece, because those people are going to be the ones who are going to be like, yes, I love this. And they're not going to churn quite as much. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, feel free to like post in the chat. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. And then there was a question. I've been thinking about hosting a live event for about a year, and the fear of not having butts in the seats terrifies me. I've spoken at 2 live events and was a guest speaker on 2 Facebook event lives. I'm ready to push past my fear. Awesome. I'm so glad you're ready to push past your fear. And you don't know how to structure it and find a venue. So hopefully you do at the end of this. If you didn't rewind, watch the replay, go back, screenshot, make sure you get those sample agendas, because, oh my gosh, those are super helpful. And that's how you should structure it. Finding a venue, that's like a whole nother thing. But I can talk about that quickly. The fear of not having butts in seats. So again, when we think about the goal of a live event, it is to build relationships with people, and it is to build referral, honestly, like if you're a service-based person. And if you're doing a product launch, it's to get people to trust and to try your product and to share it with their friends and to build kind of this organic, feedback loop, so that you know how your community of people or your target audience is interacting with your product. So if your fear is not having butts in seats, I want to challenge you to find out why you feel like you need to have 100 people in the room. Like, what is it about having 100 people in the room that makes you feel like that's more successful than having 10 people in the room? Because again, you can scale your events, but if you don't have a community, if you don't have people that already love you, if you don't have a place for people who they're like, I know when I go to that event, I'm going to learn something and have a great time, and all of these people are like saying this is an amazing event. If you don't have that yet, you need to think a little bit smaller and you need to say, like, can I get 10 people in the room? Can I get 20 people in the room? Because the reality is, like, my very first event was January 2015. I called 10 of my friends who were business owners. I didn't actually even know them that well. They were just like people I followed on Instagram. And I sent them an email, found their email on the internet. And I said, hey, would you want to come over and have wine and cheese and snacks at my house? And that was the event. And it was like, and from that event, I sat down and I said, okay, I'm gonna give the best stuff that I wasn't even like a coach, but I was like, I'm gonna give the best stuff that I have to these 10 people because they showed up for me. And I did that in January. I did it again in February with the same group of people. And then after that was when it was like, people were like, can I bring a friend to this? Can I bring, these are so valuable. Can I like tell? And so that's when it started to be like, okay, now I don't have to do the marketing anymore. Now I'm going to let them do the marketing and I'm going to let their friends do that marketing. So what I would say to you is, if you haven't done a first live event, go smaller. Host in your house, host in a coffee shop, do something where you know that you can shine and you don't have to be concerned and overwrought with like those emotions of not having people in the room, because it is way better to have a 10-person event that is sold out and full than it is to have a 50-person event that's half empty. How can I network locally with people who would come to this event? I have such a fear that no one would show up. I know a ton of people in my city. I don't know a ton of people in my city because I've only lived here for 2 years. So what I will tell you, I can't remember who asked this question via email, and I'm sorry that I'm forgetting because usually I put the names next to it. But so I had lived in my city for 2 years when I moved to Bozeman. I had lived there since 2013. And so I had literally just lived there for 2 years and I felt the same way. I felt like, I don't know anyone. But again, it started with 10. So if you are open to spending the next 2 months, like saying, this is the kind of small 10-person event that I want to host, and these are the 10 people that I would invite, and hosting that twice for free in your house, in a coffee shop somewhere, super basic and easy, dinner, if you maybe like, and everybody pays for their own dinner, you don't even have to pay for it. If you can do that, then you will network locally. If you are the gatherer, if you are the host, people will show up for you 100%. And then once you do that, once you like get those 10 people in the room, getting 50 people is just a method of saying, like, if you people, 10 people enjoyed what I was doing, just tell one friend and have that friend bring a friend. That's the great thing about events, is nobody usually wants to go to an event alone. So if you can get one person in the room, you can definitely get them to bring a friend, because like we all like to go to concerts, we all like to go to networking ththings with someone. So if you can get one person in the room, you can get 2. So if each 10 people then bring 10 people, or each bring 10 people, and those 10 people bring a friend, at least one, you're already at 30. So I think that math is right. I've hosted a number of events and I find it difficult to sell tickets and get people there. I create buzz and people are excited and the ticket sales hit and it's crickets. Help a sister out. Jen, I feel you. And I'm not going to lie to you. I have definitely hosted events where I have been like, this is a great idea and people are going to love it. And it's been terrible. And people have like not wanted to come. And so I think a couple things there. Creating the buzz is awesome, but is your message really resonating with people? Are the things that you're doing or is the topic that you're teaching in service of you as the business owner, or is it in service of them, the client? And the only way that you're going to know that is to ask people, or ask them why they're not coming. Like ask them, say like, why aren't you coming? Just so you know, if you are at least even a tiny bit interested in the course, the freebie, it expires in 3 minutes. So click the button below, join now. I want you in the room. It will be so fun. The course is amazing. The feedback we've gotten so far is really unbelievable and wonderful. So I'm really super excited to have you in if you're interested. And if you're even on the fence, if you're struggling, this is probably the lowest it's going to be cost-wise. I don't know. I know in the fall when I relaunch it, it's going to be about $100 more expensive. So make sure you A, get your sponsorship bonus because it's a big one. And B, if you have any questions about the course, feel free to ask them in the chats. In the chats with a Z. So Jen, I hope I answered that question. Difficult to sell tickets? Probably. It's probably difficult to sell tickets because your message either isn't resonating, or the urgency factor, or your event's too big. Maybe, are you selling 100 spots? Like, would this be a better event for 30 people? Can you, like, one of the strategies that I've been starting to use is like the first 10 tickets are this price. And then after those tickets have been purchased, it's this price, which is a little bit different than like early bird pricing, because it creates a different sort of like unknown urgency, because people don't know how many tickets you have left at a certain price. And so it's a difference in psychology. So if you say, like, if you're selling tickets and getting people there and they're not buying, maybe change your ticket pricing strategy to say, like, the first 10 tickets are $200 or $50 or whatever. And then the next 30 tickets are 100 or whatever. So yeah. Oh, I didn't finish answering the networking locally with people. So the way that I networked locally is I literally would just ask people that I had met, like friends of friends. Do you know anyone that owns a business? Do you know anyone that works at a large company? Do anyone know that anyone that needs community? My topic of mine was like how to build a great event. My topic was like how to have a community of business owners. And so that was like way broader than like people who wanted to learn to plan an event. And that was intentional because I wanted to get people in the room so that I could understand what their challenges were. So networking locally, go to networking events. When you meet someone at a networking event, ask them out for coffee 2 days later. If you do that every single week and you have 4 coffee meetings a month, and you will ask them, how can I help you? And you have these great meetings, like, you will grow your network exponentially in the next 3 months, guaranteed. I guarantee you, if you do that every single week, you will have a very large network by the end of either the year or at the end of this year. If you have 4 coffee meetings every month for the next 6 months, you're in good shape, sister. You'll have a great network. I'm struggling with focus. Oh, 1 more minute on the bonus. I really hope you guys are excited about it. I'm so excited about the course. It's been really fun. The last cohort was amazing. So I'm excited for you to be a part of it. Okay. I'm struggling with focus and deciding how to set up an event that will provide the most value and how to market it. I'm terrible at using MailChimp and doing campaigns and having only a small number of people on my list. So Diane, just to let you know, my first event, I had no email list at all. Zero. I just had those 10 women who had come to my house for that kind of like girls' night, where we talked about business. So that's all I had. And I was pretty decent at using MailChimp, but I didn't even use MailChimp for this, other than to like give people information once they signed up. But no email marketing, zero, really none, except like on my personal Gmail account. It says, you say you have many connections on LinkedIn, which is great because that means you have real live people who will refer you. I haven't done much specific LinkedIn marketing, but if you can really get those people to help you market, and it's a much easier ask to say, hey, do you know anyone that would be interested in this event? Instead of like, hey, are you interested in this event? I always say, like, go for the hard sell and say, like, yes, I want to, you should come to this event. But it's really a lot easier to say to your contacts, hey, do you know anyone that would benefit from this? And having them brainstorm for you. So yeah, that's definitely like a better ask. And that's how I would use LinkedIn if possible. Because sometimes people will read and say, like, actually, I'd be interested in this. I'm really excited. And then they'll go and buy the ticket. And then the ask isn't quite so like direct to them. Diane, you also asked, are there any questions in the chat before I like get super down the rabbit hole? Let me look. Oh, there's a question about charging. Yeah, so for all of my events, yes, I charge. My first event, the very first price point I have was $40. I think you can look at my sales page, bossladybash.com/boss-. I'll put it in the chat. I think this is the link. So check that out. That's my sales page. But yeah, all of my events are pay to play. And 90% of the time, the people who come, they honestly, like, I didn't even do a really great job of like thinking about this, but they weren't like ideally my target market. They were just people who were really interested in what I had to offer. But then the referral that came out of it, the like way that it made me like kind of position myself, in my business, or the way that people like talked about me, it was like people all of a sudden were like, there have been event planners in the Valley for years and years and years. And all of a sudden people were like, Lauren, she plans events. She hosted this event. It's great. And so I got like all kinds of like, people were contacting me for weddings, people like, so it was just like, I wasn't super strategic about it. And then people were contacting me for coaching and I was like, I don't do that. So like, it definitely like kind of helped me position me as a leader in my community, in my very small, like rural community. And that was really, really awesome. But really like, if you're more strategic than I was, you'll probably have a better sense of like, this is what my community needs. This is how I want to be seen in my community. And then you can like position yourself in that way. So I charge for my events. I also want future business. So it was sort of a side effect for me. I didn't really go into it being like, and now I'm going to get all these referrals. It kind of was just like, my event was like 5-10% profitable. Maybe it wasn't like a huge profit margin, and events generally aren't. And if you're in the course, I kind of walk immediately through like how to like structure your budget and what to expect in terms of profit margins for the events industry. But so if you're like, I want to make sure that if you're struggling in your business to like become that influencer, that you are focusing on creating really great content for your clients, so that then they want to trust you and hire you. So yeah, so I do charge, and I also want future business. So the first 2 events that I did, those small kind of like 10-person events, I didn't charge for those because that was more of a like relationship building thing. I know the events that I do now, I do like very high level, similar 10-person events, and I don't charge for those. And those are like, I invest in those. They're a couple hundred, $2,000 per event. But the amount of business and the relationships that I build and the networking that I make out of those as a marketing effort is way, way, way better than any other sort of like marketing effort that I have. So I do charge. If you have another question about that, just let me know. I'm not sure if I'm answering it, what you needed specifically. Let me go back to this question because I had another one. Okay, so Diane, you had asked me, what have I found to be the best common denominator that brings the event together? There's so much info out there for people to give their time that they really need to get that extra special thing. I'm all about creating community. I want to empower and connect people to themselves and to others. And my business is coaching, so I want to attract clients and services. Okay, yeah. So the extra special thing. I'm trying to think of like a really good. So for me, and this is just my personality, and I think we all have like an extra special thing that we really have and believe in. So I really believe personally, my mission and my message when I like kind of do the boss lady stuff is that if you can remove all of the emotional and fear barriers from someone in a room, if you can get them to a place where they feel comfortable being their like really true kind of messy self in person and say some of the things out loud that they don't feel comfortable saying to other people, that is my super secret sauce. And the way that I do that is I am extremely vulnerable when I'm at events. I'm not saying that you have to do that, but I will openly talk about like where I was in the very beginning of my business. I will openly talk about the hard things that are happening right now in my business. And so my extra special thing is when people show up, I want them to feel like I am taking care of them. And so you'll see that throughout my event. Like I always have a coat check. People are like, but it costs money. I don't care. I don't want people like wearing their winter overcoat when they're trying to like be their authentic self. I always have snacks and drinks. Even though it eats into my bottom line, I always have food because I don't want people to feel hungry while they're trying to learn from me. I always have like a little take home gift, whether that's like a worksheet or something, or like in the past, I'm trying to think about it, see if I have one around here. I don't. But I always have some sort of like, no, I don't. Oh, yeah, I do. So like my most recent event, this says Bosses Gotta Hydrate. I don't know if you can see that. But I always do some sort of like swag gift that people can take home. And I don't brand it, which I don't know if that's a fail. You all marketing experts will have to tell me, but I don't brand it because I want people to take this home and I want them to love it. And I want them to post it on Instagram and I want them to bring it with them. And so when someone says like, oh, I like your tumbler, they can say, yeah, thanks. I got it at this event. I probably should brand them. I don't, but I think for me, it's really all about taking care of people and understanding their experience. And then again, the thing with live event feedback Like, if you see someone standing in the corner all by themselves, you can fix that. Like, you can go over to them and say, like, "Tell me what's on your like, tell me what you're feeling. Like, tell me how I can help you. Tell me what you need to do." And sometimes they just need to talk and they need you to hear them. And so I don't know if that answers your question, Diane. I don't know if I have a specific like, oh, you know what I do that like I don't tell people that often. When I host an event, I make people fill out some sort of like questionnaire so that I know them. And then what I do in advance is I like based on the questions that I ask, which is all in Events That Convert, if you're at all interested. But based on the questions that I ask them, I say, okay, this person said, like, there's a question that's like, what do you need the most? And like, someone's like, I need support in this, or I need more money, or I need a client that's this. And then like, I look through all the answers and someone's like, I need help with my graphics. And I'm like, oh, this person needs more clients and this needs graphics. So I like try to make a way to introduce the people who are at the event. And it is way more time intensive than if I just like showed up and said, hey, thanks for coming, and like meet each other on your own. But it has formed the richest connections that I have ever felt in any community, whether I have hosted it or others have hosted it. And so the more you know about your attendees, the more you can get into their heads, the more questions you can ask them, the better you're going to be. And then more of that like secret sauce stuff, that's like that intangible stuff, because no one's going to like come to an event for a water bottle. It's a nice to have. But if you walk into the room and you have structured the event about making them feel powerful and standing in their power and comfortable in themselves, then there's your secret sauce right there. So that's that. Other questions? I know that I'm like super duper over my time, so I apologize for that. And thank you so much for all of you who stuck with me through the tech glitches. I'm going to give you guys like another 2 minutes. If you have any questions, please ask me. If you are interested in Events That Convert, please ask me questions about the course in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions. The bonus has expired, so hopefully you got in before the bonus expired. But if not, and you're confused about sponsorships and things like that, just let me know. And if you have any questions about event planning, if you have any questions about marketing, please let me know. I have a ton of resources and information in Events That Convert. I can actually show you the inside of it. There it is. So this is Events That Convert. This is the whole back end. Oh, actually, that's my face. Let me share the screen really quick. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, so that's Events That Convert. This is the back end. So you actually, if you sign up, you get access to all of this. We have lessons about how to use events as a part of your business model. I think that's something that people don't talk about a lot. A lot of people think that events are like the business model in and of themselves. So I talk about venue research. We talk about choosing venues. So if you're like, I don't know how to choose my venue, I don't know how to research my venue, this whole module is going to be great for you. Again, we go super deep into your event agenda. I show you how to create it. I show you how to plan your content and how to make it fun and interactive. The pricing mod, this is like my favorite. I know pricing and budgeting for people is like kind of a mystery, but like, man, this pricing module, I basically like show you how to do your costs in your sample event budget. I show you how to price your tickets, so that making sure your price is right. Like there's a ton of stuff in here. And then event sales page, I show you how to create the marketing module. Obviously, no surprise, is huge, which is awesome. We do a strategic overview. We do some mass marketing strategies for digital entrepreneurs. So if you're like an email/Facebook ad person, I don't talk a ton about that stuff, but we talk a little bit about some mass marketing stuff if you have a larger audience and are a little bit more advanced. We talk about your sample content calendar or your sample marketing calendar too, planning, registration. We have Q&As that we have done. Those are recorded. So if you have questions, those will be fun. Yeah. So there's all kinds of stuff in this. It's crazy town. It's crazy town. I'm going to stop sharing my screen again. Does anyone have any other questions? How can I help you? I feel like I ran through this and I want to make sure that you don't have any other questions, or that you are not confused, or that you feel like your events are can be successful and are accessible. So let me know. Anything? Anything? I'm so excited for you guys to start doing events. If you are doing an event, I actually have to run here in a second, but if you are doing an event soon, I would love to know about it. So you can pop that in the chat. I hope you're well. I hope you're doing great, amazing, wonderful things. Questions, pop them in the chat. Let me just double check one more time. Oh my gosh, we're so many browser tabs open. There we go. Okay. If there's no more questions, I'm going to run. I'm so excited that we got to do this. I hope that I get to see you on another webinar. I'm going to probably host these every week, or not every week, every month, either once a month or once every other week. I would love to see you here more often and talk to you soon. Bye, all.